Hello, I am Kristin Bash, and I'm here to talk to you about the relationship between health, diet, and climate change. Back in 2011, the Foresight Report outlined that our food system as designed is not fit for purpose in terms of sustainability. If it carries on as it is, it compromises the world's capacity to produce food into the future. This is across a number of environmental impacts. 2% of the world's water is consumable by humans, is fit for human use, rather. 70% of that is used by agriculture, a third of which is used by livestock. Industrial agriculture practices are denigrating soil at nearly 100 times the level it's able to regenerate itself. This is also causing issues with water pollution in terms of eutrophication and acidification. And of course, there's climate change. About 25% of human-produced greenhouse gas equivalents are created through agriculture, half of which come from livestock. And most of that come from land use changes. So this is for growing feed in a lot of cases, and it's also for just growing large grazing farms. So of 71% of habitable land, 50% is used for agriculture, nearly 80% is used for livestock. But of that 80%, it only creates 18% of the global calorie supply, 37% of the world's protein supply. So it's not efficient. Also, increased levels of CO2 decrease the level of nutrition in several staple crops that many populations across the planet depend on. This is indicative of the circular relationship between greenhouse gases and the agriculture system. What can we do? On a health-based perspective, food-based dietary guidelines are where experts come together and give guidance on generally what should our plate look like. And there is consensus, there are differences. And I know Eat Lancet was considered quite extreme, and the Eat Well plate on the other side. I could have extended this out. The general pattern is that more plant foods and moderate amounts of animal-based foods, moderate to low amounts, these are pretty universal if you look at food-based dietary guidelines across the world, really. And these patterns, in fact, hold up when you look at the co-benefits to the environment. So if you look at the foods that are produced with the least greenhouse gas emissions, generally, they also tend to have the most positive health outcomes when they provide the majority of the diet. So it's focusing on this lower left quadrant where there are co-benefits both to reduce risks of negative health outcomes and improved or reduced risks to environmental impact. So this is where we should be focused. Thank you very much.
Diet in Scotland is poor, and there are a few dimensions to it. On average, we don't eat enough of healthy things like fruit and vegetables, whole grains and oily fish. But also we eat too much of unhealthy products like cakes, biscuits, pastries and savoury snacks. The problem is that those foods are everywhere. They're also heavily promoted. There is also an inequity dimension to the Scottish diet. For instance, people who live in deprived areas eat on average one portion of fruit and vegetables a day less than those who live in least deprived areas. Unhealthy diet is the leading cause of poor health and death globally. In Scotland, we can already see these effects. 2 out of every 3 adults experience either overweight or obesity, and 1 in 25 people have diabetes. The most recent report of the Lancet Commission on Obesity highlighted common drivers of the joint pandemic of poor diet and climate change. The identified drivers were food and agriculture, transportation, urban design, and land use. Poor diet and climate change are systems problems, so they need a systems-level interventions. Interventions like double-duty actions that could address both at the same time. The problem is that such actions are challenging. For example, national dietary guidelines could be extended to include sustainability principles. Yet, in the UK they don't. This is because of pressure from strong food industry lobbies. There are myths regarding different diets and whether they are healthy. The truth is that there are big differences in how each individual responds to different foods and to different diets. For example, some people cannot digest lactose. Whatever diet we choose, we will benefit from it most if it includes unprocessed and minimally processed foods. Imagine a difference between colorful vegan diet of fruit and veg, whole grains, beans, nuts, versus a beige vegan diet of white pasta, sugary drinks, and crisps. Both are vegan. While some people may be worried that moving towards more plant-based diet will mean not enough protein, it is not a dietary risk because supply and consumption of protein in the UK is adequate. In fact, it would remain adequate even if we stopped eating meat. While such recommendations are simple, the responsibility for change cannot be placed on individuals only. And this is because we live in a world where unhealthy and environmentally unfriendly options are often cheaper, easier to get, and more popular. This is why we need a radical rethink of national and international governance, business models, and food systems. And Scotland tried to do this with a proposal of a new law on food called the Good Food Nation Bill. Unfortunately, COVID-19 took the focus away, and that bill was dropped.